Maybe if you could just introduce yourself first and...
Should I just like look at you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, my name is Tracy Bomberry. Live on Six Nations and grew up in Toronto, but this is my third time moving back to Six Nations in my life. But I'm there for good now. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I moved back about 3 years ago. Yeah, I would say 2 or 3 years. So.
What drew you to the reclamation site?
I was actually driving to work when I saw them arrive that morning on February the 28th, and I had heard about it before. But when I drove by and I just said, "Oh, they're doing it! They're actually there!" And I felt, I saw them all at the front. I thought, "Oh, wishing I didn't have to go to work, so I could come back and have a look." But I didn't actually spend any time at the site until the morning of the raid. And I think I myself, just like a lot of other people, had heard about it. The word had gone out. It had been all over the news. I mean, we all knew that it was coming. We just didn't know when it was going to happen. And so I think when everybody saw that, and I arrived about 8 o'clock, I would say. So all the OPPs had been moved back at that point, but everything else was starting to happen. At that point, it was. I was actually amazed looking in my rear view mirror. All I could see were nothing but cars behind me and nothing but cars ahead of me, and we were all going down six line, and then got to a point where you couldn't drive any further because there were just so many cars. Everybody just pulled over, jumped out of the car, and everybody just started to run. And it was literally people would just jump out of their cars and run the rest of the way. So when I got there, I got to see just in time, look over the bridge by the bypass, and watching those big hydro poles come down, and I'm just looking at it going, "Oh shit," okay, this is really happening. This is not really happening, and watching all that going on, and made my way out to the front. And by that time, they had been blocked off. The trucks had come and dumped all of the loads of gravel and all that kind of stuff. Talked to a few people, friends of mine who were there, who was, arrested and had already come back that morning, and the tire fire was going, and all of that was going on. So it was confusion, but I think a little bit later on, everybody just kind of got their bearings a little bit, and just more and more people kept showing up. More and more people kept showing up. But I had to leave. I had to get to work. So at that point, and I worked for CH Television in Hamilton, and at that point, I had only been there for 3 months. And so, of course, they were on the scene, and I did talk to a couple of the reporters who were there. I just was getting to know them, that kind of thing. So got to work, and everybody was, concerned because they had seen everything that had happened. So, but between then and the course of this past year, everything else that has happened, especially with the cameramen and all of that, that was really hard to find out and to hear about. And they did come and tell me at work when that happened. But
Can you just explain what that was?
When there was an incident, 3 incidents that day, people at the site, and basically like a fight broke out, I guess, between the elderly couple who had come and created a ruckus at the site, spilled over into the Canadian Tire parking lot, and the CH cameramen were there filming it. And when some of the guys from the site said, "Stop filming, we don't want you filming it," whatever, fight ensued, fighting over the camera and all of that. So, I mean, I heard the version of it from people at work. It's just, at work when I heard about it. And then I thought, okay, I wanted to hear it from people at the site because I wasn't sure what the true story was. So again, and it's 2 different versions, and I've heard both. So it's been I guess strange in a lot of ways, and I just felt it every day afterwards, and I left, went home, I went straight to the site after that day, and had to listen to CHML totally inciting the people in Caledonia about everything that had happened that morning. that day. And I was literally afraid of driving through Caledonia to get back home that day, because I thought if I have to wait till the end of the day, they're going to be listening and getting all riled up for the rest of the afternoon, and it's going to be a whole big crowd of people like I've seen and I've driven through every day. And so I was actually a little bit afraid that I just wanted to get back home and I didn't want to be caught up in any kind of crowd, you know, driving my car through or whatever. So I left and went down to the site, and it just got worse that night. And there was a big, you know, I wouldn't say a riot, but a big scene behind the school that backs onto the site. Helicopters flying overhead, and I was videotaping that night too, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You know, people yelling white power and all this stuff, and they were throwing rocks, and you know, it seemed surreal to me, because it's like it looked like a scene from a movie, because you're literally standing there and you see the flash of light from the helicopter and all that stuff, and you see, you know, all the people, and you're hearing what they're saying to you and all these things. And you know, people weren't. I didn't hear any of the racial stuff going back, because it's, you know, I just kept hearing all of it, and it was shocking to me, because I had never experienced anything like that before. And you know, some people were not shocked by it, you know, having grown up there on the reserve, which I didn't. So, mind you, I had never really experienced it to that extent growing up as a kid, not until I got back to the reserve. So that was, yeah, it's all been a really big eye-opener to me, the way everything's played out. And you had asked earlier about the McHale rallies and all that kind of stuff. I had gone there, again, just to kind of document what was going on, what was being said, videotaping. And wasn't really planning on staying for the whole rally, but it just got to the point where there's so many people, and things just started to happen. There was little kind of skirmishes and arguments kind of going on. There was a ton of media around, and it was pointed out to me the different white supremacist groups that were there, and which I didn't really notice at first until they said, okay, that's them over there and that's them over there, and I'm like, oh, okay, you know, kind of thing. And I was with a friend of mine, and we were pretty much the only two Native people right there in the crowd amongst everybody, and I had a lot of comments directed my way, and dirty looks, and people giving me the finger, and people coming right up to my face and saying, don't videotape me, and you know, all this kind of stuff. And I had little groups of them all surrounded me around my car where I was standing, where I was videotaping. And I'm standing there looking, and I'm going, at one point I was kind of by myself. I'm going, okay, this is not good, because, you know, and I mean, there's a whole whack of OBP standing behind there as well. Look over, take my plate number, whatever. But I thought, okay, somebody, you know, try something with me. I'm the only one here. I'm the only one standing here, kind of thing. So I did get a little nervous at that point, and called a friend of mine. A couple of them came and stood with me until, you know, a couple of my friends came back and stayed for the entire rally. But yeah, it was shocking. It was shocking to hear just the outright hatred that people directed at me, for no, not so much for no reason. I mean, I understand, you know, where their hatred and all that stems from, but to have that directed at you, like, so in such a compressed amount of time, and, you know, it was really shocking to me. And I was, you know, afraid at one point, I was angry at one point, one other point I was just like, I'm not here to, you know, get into an argument with these people. I'm here to document what's going on, and that's what I wanted to do, not to anybody. And just to kind of I kept that in my mind the whole time I was there. And then it affected me days, even up to like days, maybe a week or so later, thinking about it, and then I get angry, thinking about, oh, I should have said something, you know, or then I replayed it in my mind. Would I have done anything differently? And when I think about it, and even now, I said, no, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't, because it would serve no purpose, you know, for me to engage them in any way and, you know, spew back what they were spewing at me. I don't know, do any good. It would fall on deaf ears. So what's the point?
Were there a lot of people at Six Nations that had friendships, and relations with people in Caledonia? Like, have those been severed, or are those not really? Or
Well, yeah, I think definitely strained. I mean, there's obviously a lot of close relationships, whether they're even intermarried and that kind of thing. A lot of people from Six Nations obviously went to school, high school in Caledonia. So a lot of, I didn't go to high school. I just know from what family has, people who had gone there have told over the years that there was always kind of like, an underlying thing, but nothing to the extent that I don't think that what's erupted in this last year. I don't think it's ever really been like that. It's been a little bit more, like a mutual respect, I guess, back and forth. There always is that little bit of underlying, racism amongst certain people, I guess, but it's, nothing. I don't think that's erupted in this last year. So
what has been the impact within the community of the reclamation in terms of, like you described, all the kind of feelings that you had when people were driving up to the site and seeing all these people there? But is there, did you ever expect that this could happen at Six Nations? I mean, it's something that maybe could be compared to something like Oka or Ikawash. Is there, are you surprised that this happened when it did, or did you ever think that something like this could happen?
I myself personally, no, I myself never anticipated it being as big as it has gotten, or as long as it has been, which has been just a year, almost a year. I don't think anybody really could foresee that, from that morning, the 28th. I don't think anybody would realize how it would evolve. But at the same time, there's also been, and this is myself included, just being there and learning a lot of the history and all that kind of stuff. It's brought about I guess, a reemergence of people's history and taking more pride in where they are, who they are and where they're from, that type of thing. I see a lot of that, especially with the young people. They feel a lot more pride, and they feel, a lot more wanting to know about, traditions and Longhouse and all that kind of stuff. And, for me, that's been an awakening for me, because I never had that growing up in the city. And now I find that, okay, that's what I really want for my three sons, is for them to live that way and to be brought up that way, and not be brought up the way I was brought up in the city, and away from, the Longhouse, and away from culture and language and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's the really good thing that's come about all of this, is that it has brought about that amongst the people again. So that part of it has been good.
How do you think it's all going to end?
I don't know. I really don't know. I hope it doesn't end the way things happen, like with the raid, that kind of stuff. I hope that doesn't happen. I can't see an end in the near future, not of the reclamation, not of people leaving the site, like they, that's pretty much said every day, oh, we want them off the site. That's not going to happen. Those people who are there are not going to leave. They're not going to leave. So I really don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen. I hope I know what I would like for it to happen. So.
And what would that be?
And that would be for us to be back, and that would be part of Six Nations again. So that's what we hope for.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're welcome.